All right, just a quick discussion on the difference between tracking and kerning, which is something you're going to need to start paying attention to with your designs, because this is those, what I lovingly refer to as the little things that separate amateurs to the professionals, because it's that sort of attention to details that makes us who we are as designers. There is a difference between tracking and kerning. Tracking is dealing with the entire word, and kerning is dealing with the space in between our letters, whether it be too far away or too close. Now, unfortunately, I did just grab a system font, so it does do this sort of automatically on their end, so it all looks nice and pretty, but chances are if you're downloading something from the web, the auto is not done. We're going to start by explaining tracking real quick. I've double clicked and I'm in Illustrator for this, but it will work in all of the Creative Cloud softwares because type's type. So for tracking, this is the auto, and when you hover over here, you can see that it says tracking, well, if that's turned on. I do have those usually turned off. And it's set to 0. There we go. Set the tracking for the selected characters. So if you do forget, just hover over the toolbars. Your tips are there, and it'll help you out. Think of this as a sort of number scale. So when I click on the drop down, you can see negatives through zeros and then through the positive numbers. So it's just like in math when you're dealing with a number scale. I'm going to do both of these onto the extremes so that you can see the differences. We have our neutral. We're going to take it to the -100. This is called tight. So it takes all the word and it has the tight track. We're going to take it and I'm just going to do the 100. It has loose. So you can track it loosely or you can track it tight. So you have a couple options with this. You can see there's one more. There's a 200. It does, of course, distort the negative space a little bit, so just be careful with that and your scale and proportion. If you need more, just click on that area, activate the cursor, and then you can up and down arrow. So it's the same as if you're doing the typeface and changing the size. So remember, you can click up there and then up and down arrow, and it'll go one by one whenever you're doing that system. Kerning, and actually I think I am going to make this just slightly larger so that we can really get in there and see the nitty-gritty with this. To make it bigger, you can also use the Shift command. Period has a greater than symbol above it, so it's going to make it larger. Comma has the less than symbol above it. It's going to make it smaller, so you don't have to rely upon the default sizes. Just a refresher on that also. So the kerning is the spaces, the letters, in between. So how do we, maybe for this we think the I just looks maybe it looks a little bit too much space there. So let's go ahead and just kern that a little bit. Beside our tracking is our kerning, and you can see it's sort of set up the same system. Our negatives are 0 neutral, and then the 200s. Negative is going to pull it in just that little bit, and I'm going to do more of an extreme. Obviously, that does not look good, but you get the idea that you can go, and just everything else stays the same except for that space. And I'll make it like a -25. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to do the same with this one. And again, it's just dealing with the space and making it look a little bit nicer. Maybe it's a little bit too close, which obviously the space looks fine, but let's go ahead and go to the extreme and give it lots and lots and lots of air. And I'm going to undo it and actually do it in the middle of the word so you can see how it keeps everything together. And we just had the mouse have the cursor activated. We don't have anything selected because this is just the space, not the word. So you can see it's optical set, so it already had the 4 on it. Let's go crazy. We're going to make it that 200 so you can see the difference. This is, like I said, typically better for those which you download, but it's the little subtle things that make design what it is. So really start paying attention to that negative space, and especially with the headlines or the main, if we're dealing with hierarchy, like the A of the A, B, and C of the hierarchy. Really get in there and finesse the details with it. Make sure it looks good to you. Even if you're having trouble seeing it, maybe just toss it off to the side. And I'm just going to, put the white fill on it, and then I'm going to make the black box. So it's more like what I'll say the traditional positive and negative, so that we start paying attention to the spaces in between rather than just the positives. So this is where that tracking and kerning is going to come in handy. With tracking, when it's loose like this, it's going to have a sort of more mod feel to it. So if you're doing a project that's a little bit more sort of mod and modern style, you're probably going to loosen it up a little bit and give it a little bit of air around it. Same dealio, if you're having trouble, try just doing reverse just for yourself to see how it is. I'm just going to zoom in so we can really see, where we did those adjustments and the space in between. It's actually looking pretty good, even though it was optically set. So just that little bit of tweak did help. So start practicing this with all your projects and get used to paying attention to that negative space.